On Stoicism Breath, we speak directly to that quiet voice inside you, the one that knows you are made for more. There comes a moment in every life when you pause, look in the mirror, and realize you've been drifting, not building, not growing, just existing. Days blur into weeks, weeks into years, and suddenly the weight of wasted time feels unbearable. The ancient Stoics saw this trap clearly. Over 2,000 years ago, Seneca warned you act like mortals in all that you fear, and like immortals in all that you desire. Think about that. We panic over small things, awkward conversations, a tough workout, the discomfort of learning something new. Yet when it comes to our deepest dreams, we behave as if time is infinite, as if we'll always have another tomorrow. We micromanage tiny anxieties while procrastinating on the very things that could transform our lives. But here's the truth. Time isn't stolen from us. It's surrendered. Hour by hour, choice by choice. Until one day we wake up wondering where our lives went. Seneca said most people don't truly live, they only postpone living. They spend their lives getting ready to get ready. It's not laziness that kills potential, it's delay, that whisper of tomorrow. Tomorrow you'll start eating better. Tomorrow you'll launch the business. Tomorrow you'll finally have that honest conversation. But tomorrow is the most dangerous word in any language. It promises everything yet delivers nothing. That's why so many people die with their dreams still locked inside them, their unwritten books, unbuilt businesses, unlived lives. The Stoics chose a different path. They married urgency with presence. They knew the gap between who you are and who you could become only closes with deliberate, disciplined action consistently applied over time. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, wrote in his private journals, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself I have to go to work as a human being, not as an emperor, not as a ruler, but as a human, because our true duty isn't to titles, wealth, or recognition, it's to become the fullest version of ourselves." Look around today. Most people have stopped growing spiritually, mentally, emotionally, financially. They're comfortable but stagnant. They consume without purpose, exist without living, and quietly surrender their potential. But if you're still listening, I know this message is for you, because inside you burns a quiet, righteous anger, the kind that whispers, "I am meant for more than this," and you are. On Stoicism Breath, we speak about the fire inside you, the one that refuses to die no matter how long you've ignored it. If that flame still burns, it's time to stop bargaining with your own potential and start building the life you know you were meant to live. This isn't about a short burst of motivation that fades by next week. It's a wake-up call rooted in timeless wisdom that has transformed lives for over 2,000 years. Here's the hard truth: if you keep drifting through life in a haze of comfort, always trusting that tomorrow will rescue you, blaming outside circumstances instead of owning your choices, or waiting for that perfect moment that never comes, you will wake up one day filled with nothing but regret. And the Stoics knew that regret is the heaviest burden a human soul can carry. Epictetus, once a slave who rose to become one of history's most respected teachers, asked a question that should echo in your mind. How long are you going to wait before you demand the best of yourself? Haven't you already waited long enough? From this moment forward, the challenge is clear: walk with urgency, not the restless panic of anxiety, but the focused urgency of someone who understands that time is the one resource you can never earn back. Build your life brick by brick, decision by decision, day after day, because no one else will do this sacred work for you. It is your fight, your potential, your life. What I will share with you now are not empty platitudes or motivational slogans. These are 7 powerful Stoic principles battle-tested by history's greatest figures, men and women, who turned struggle into strength and left behind a blueprint for human excellence. If you listen carefully and apply them with discipline, your life will not just change, it will transform. Let's begin with the first principle. Stop negotiating with your laziness. This may sound simple, but it is the most crucial step to creating a powerful life. Every day you fight a private war within yourself, the part of you that wants comfort against the part of you that longs for greatness. Marcus Aurelius, The philosopher king who led the Roman Empire through wars and plagues wrote in his journal, "At dawn, when you are unwilling to rise, have this thought ready: I am rising to the work of a human being." Think about that. The most powerful man in the ancient world, surrounded by unimaginable luxury, still wrestled with the same voice you and I hear every morning. That whisper saying, "Stay in bed. Take it easy. Just 5 more minutes." But here's what made Marcus extraordinary. Every single morning he declared war on that voice. He chose discipline over comfort. That is the mindset you must adopt. Because the truth is, nothing destroys human potential faster than the habit of bargaining with laziness. And if you're honest with yourself, you know how many times in the past month you've lost that battle. Every time you say, "I'll start tomorrow," you trade a piece of your future for temporary ease. The Stoics remind us the battle is not out there, it is here within. And victory begins the moment you refuse to negotiate with your own weakness. On Stoicism Breath, we uncover a truth many avoid facing every morning. The battle begins the moment your alarm rings. You set that time on purpose, yet almost instantly the negotiations start. Just 5 more minutes. I'll make up for it tomorrow. Today's different. I didn't sleep well. I'll exercise next Monday. I'll study later, but for now scrolling my phone counts as learning, right? These tiny excuses may seem harmless, but every time you choose comfort over commitment, something inside you quietly breaks. Your self-respect erodes. You stop trusting your own word even to yourself. You begin to see yourself as someone with good intentions but no follow-through, someone who can't fully rely on themselves. The Stoics warned us about this cycle. To them, discipline was never about harsh punishment or living without joy. Discipline was about honor, the deep honor that comes from showing up for yourself when every fiber of your being wants to quit. It's about building unshakable trust with yourself, knowing that when you make a commitment, even the smallest one, you can be counted on to keep it. But laziness is a shapeshifter. Sometimes it's obvious: physical laziness, avoiding movement, skipping exercise, putting off basic work. But often it's more subtle. Mental laziness convinces you that planning is the same as doing, or that good intentions are enough without execution. Emotional laziness whispers that it's easier to avoid the hard conversation, to stay stuck in draining relationships, rather than doing the painful work of change. And then there's spiritual laziness, the failure to question whether your daily actions align with your values, the reluctance to do the ongoing work of becoming someone you truly respect. Here's what you must understand. Laziness isn't just a mood or a flaw, it's a habit. And like any habit, it grows stronger each time you feed it. But the opposite is also true. Discipline is a habit too. Every time you choose effort over ease, action over avoidance, discomfort over instant gratification, you strengthen it. That's why the Stoics practiced what they called voluntary discomfort. They deliberately chose harder paths when easier ones were available. They woke early when their bodies begged for more rest, worked when their minds craved escape, trained their bodies when they ached, ate simple foods instead of indulging in excess, not out of punishment but as preparation for life's inevitable storms. Because here's the truth: when you push through resistance, in small areas, you build the mental muscle to face resistance in the bigger battles. When you keep your word to yourself in minor matters, you develop the character to honor commitments in major ones. Each time you prove that you can do what you say, even when you don't feel like it, you become someone who can be trusted with greater opportunities and deeper responsibilities. And ask yourself this: what are you truly losing when you remain stuck in patterns of laziness? You're losing the one resource that can never be replaced: time. You're losing opportunities because while you're negotiating with your excuses, someone else with less talent but more discipline is already moving forward. The world doesn't wait. Life doesn't pause. And if you don't act, you fall behind, not because of fate, but because of choice. On Stoicism Breath, we face a hard truth. Every time you break a promise to yourself, you don't just lose a moment, you lose a piece of your confidence. Bit by bit, you reinforce the identity of someone who cannot be relied on. And the most painful loss isn't immediate, it's gradual. It's the slow death of your dreams through the compound effect of tiny surrenders that add up over months and years. While you hesitate, life doesn't pause. The business you wanted to start is already being built by someone else. The skill you meant to master is now someone else's expertise. The relationship you dreamed of creating is flourishing in another person's life. This is why Stoicism demands self-mastery, because if you don't rule yourself, life will force you to bend to circumstances beyond your control. The best time to defeat laziness isn't when you feel inspired. Motivation is fleeting, unreliable. The best time is always now, in this very moment. How do you do it? First, expect resistance. First, don't be shocked when your mind and body demand comfort. Resistance is universal. Even Marcus Aurelius wrote about it. The difference between those who succeed and those who don't isn't the absence of resistance, it's how they respond to it. Second, build daily systems that function regardless of how you feel. Whether you're energized or exhausted, motivated or discouraged, you follow through. Systems create automatic momentum and free you from relying on unstable emotions. Third, reduce temptations and distractions at the root. Don't just rely on willpower. If you want to read more, remove your phone from the bedroom. If you want to eat clean, don't bring junk food into the house. If you want to work out, set out your clothes the night before. Design your environment so good choices are easy and bad ones are hard. And finally, change how you see discomfort. That burning in your muscles isn't punishment, it's your body growing stronger. That mental strain, when learning isn't suffering, it's your brain forming new neural pathways. That knot in your stomach during a hard conversation, it's you forging courage and authenticity. Pain is not proof of failure, pain is proof of progress. If you recognize yourself in the pattern of negotiating with laziness, begin by forgiving yourself. The past is fixed, but the future is still wide open. From this moment, draw a line. The new version of you rises with the alarm no matter how little sleep you had. You work even when you're tired because discipline functions when motivation fails. You train even when uninspired because consistency builds capability. You read even when bored because knowledge compounds like interest in the bank. Day by day, these small victories add up. Your mind sharpens, your body strengthens, your character becomes unshakable, and your life improves not by luck, not by chance, but through the disciplined application of daily choices. The Stoic path is not easy, but it is the only path that leads to true greatness, authentic self-respect, and the deep satisfaction of knowing you've become the fullest version of yourself. Comfort may feel safe, but it is a beautiful prison. Discipline is the key to freedom. The only question that remains, the one that defines the trajectory of your entire life, is simple: will you use that key? On Stoicism Breath, we confront one of the most silent but destructive traps of modern life: drifting without direction. Many people stay stuck, frustrated and unfulfilled, not because they lack intelligence, resources, or even opportunities, but because they lack something much simpler and far more essential: clarity. Without clarity, days blur into each other. People wake up, check their phones, react to whatever feels urgent, and spend their energy chasing fires that don't matter. They say yes to opportunities that pull them further from their values, and no to challenges that could change their lives. They live as if being busy is the same as being purposeful. Seneca, who advised emperors and built a life of immense wisdom and wealth, captured this perfectly. If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable. This isn't just poetry, it's a practical warning. Without a destination, even the strongest tailwind won't help you. Opportunities will come and go, but without a clear framework, you won't know which ones matter, and you may let the most important ones slip by. Clarity is the foundation of intentional living. Stoicism demands that we stop waiting for life to hand us direction and instead design it ourselves. No one else can do this work. Not society, not family, not luck, not chance. It requires courage to ask hard questions and sit with the discomfort of honest answers. What kind of person do you want to become over the next 5 years? What skills must you master, and for what purpose? What level of health, stability, and strength will allow you to live fully? What problems in the world matter so deeply to you that solving them gives meaning to your effort? What legacy do you want to leave behind when your time runs out? Here is where most people fail. They treat these questions casually, offering vague, comfortable answers that sound good but guide nothing. They say they want success without defining what success actually means to them. They say they want happiness without identifying what consistently brings them fulfillment. They say they want to make a difference without choosing a specific problem they feel called to solve. Vagueness is the enemy of achievement. Precision is the foundation of power. Marcus Aurelius didn't write his meditations to impress anyone. He wrote to carve sharp clarity into his own mind to remind himself of his values, his responsibilities, and his priorities. That is the discipline we must reclaim today. The discipline of knowing with ruthless honesty what exactly we are building with our lives, and then aligning every choice with that vision. On Stoicism Breath, we learn that even the greatest leaders understood a timeless truth. A person who cannot think clearly about their own life cannot hope to lead others effectively. True clarity demands solitude, time away from distractions, free from the constant noise of social media, the expectations of others, and the opinions that drown out your authentic voice. It requires sitting quietly with yourself and confronting the questions most people avoid. What do you alone have to contribute to the world? What pain or problem are you uniquely equipped to solve? What lifestyle are you genuinely willing to sacrifice for not just dream about? Because real clarity is not built on fantasies. It's not about inspiring visions you hold in your mind. It's about the sacrifices and trade-offs you're willing to make to bring those visions into reality. If you want to build something extraordinary, you must also be willing to release anything that weakens or distracts you. That could mean stepping away from friends who constantly drain your energy. It could mean saying no to social invitations that don't align with your priorities. It could mean cutting habits that steal your time while giving nothing back in return. The power of genuine clarity is not that it makes life easier. It doesn't remove obstacles or erase pain, but it makes life simpler because once you know where you're going, every decision has a clear filter. You can ask, does this move me closer to the person I want to become or further away? Does this relationship nourish me or deplete me? Does this activity build my long-term vision or just distract me in the short term? When you reach this level of clarity, your yes becomes powerful because it's backed by conviction, and your no becomes liberating because it aligns with your highest path. You stop saying yes out of guilt or boredom. You stop grasping at every good opportunity so that you can say yes to the truly great ones. Seneca captured it perfectly. True wealth is not measured by many possessions, but by having few wants and ensuring those wants align with your deepest values. Marcus Aurelius, who had access to unimaginable wealth and power, reminded himself daily, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." This was not morbid, it was clarity. When you fully embrace the reality that your time is limited and uncertain, you stop wasting it on trivial pursuits, shallow relationships, and distractions that do not serve your highest good. Mortality, when accepted, sharpens your focus like nothing else. If death is certain and its timing unknown, then drifting through life without purpose is not just a mistake, it's a dishonor to the gift of existence. But when you know your values, when your direction is clear, you live with intention instead of reaction. You speak with meaning instead of noise. You rise each morning with a reason that compels you forward. The most practical way to apply this principle is to create your own personal manifesto. Write it down. Capture your core values, your long-term vision, and your absolute non-negotiables. Be specific about who you must become to live the life you truly desire, not the life others expect you to chase. Define your standards, define your boundaries, define your commitments. Because once you put it into words, clarity shifts from a vague dream into a living compass that guides every choice you make. On Stoicism, breath clarity means defining the things you will never compromise on your non-negotiables. These are the pillars that hold up your entire life no matter what pressures or temptations surround you. For some, it's a morning routine that anchors the day in discipline and focus. For others, it's an unshakable commitment to physical fitness as the foundation for mental resilience and emotional balance. It might be a dedication to lifelong learning, sharpening your skills year after year, or a strict financial discipline that invests in your future self rather than indulging in short-lived impulses. The specific details are less important than the clarity with which you define them and the intensity with which you protect them. Because once you know what truly matters, the world will immediately begin testing you. Algorithms are designed to hijack your attention. News cycles manufacture urgency about things you cannot control. Consumer culture thrives on keeping you uncertain, always chasing the next product, the next fix, the next empty promise. But you are not like most people. You are not casual about your existence. You are becoming a stoic architect of your own destiny. That means guarding your focus like a warrior guards his weapon. When distractions, drama, or other people's crises try to pull you off course, your clarity becomes your compass. It cuts through the noise and points you back toward what matters most. Clarity, when fiercely protected, is not just an advantage, it's a weapon. With it, you make decisions quickly and confidently. Without it, you drown in endless options, paralyzed by other people's opinions. In a world that profits from your confusion, maintaining sharp focus on your path is an act of rebellion. Epictetus put it plainly. No man is free who is not master of himself. You become the master of your life the moment you decide with precision what you are building, regardless of what anyone else thinks. Look into your future with uncompromising eyes. Decide exactly who you want to become. Strip away the habits, relationships, and distractions that no longer serve you, and then move forward with clarity so strong it cannot be shaken, even if it means walking alone, even if it means disappointing those who prefer you, small and uncertain, even if it means making choices no one else understands. Your life is not a democracy. It does not require consensus. You don't need approval to chase your highest vision. What you need is clarity, commitment, and the courage to act on both. On Stoicism Breath. One of the most dangerous myths of modern self-development is the belief that success belongs only to a lucky few, those rare individuals who wake up every day bursting with natural motivation and endless inspiration. This idea is not just false, it's destructive. It convinces millions of people to wait to hope to keep preparing endlessly for the right moment while their lives quietly slip away unused. The truth understood by high achievers across history is that real success is not fueled by constant inspiration. It is built on momentum that is deliberately created and carefully sustained. The ancient Stoic philosopher Cleanthes embodied this truth. By day, he worked as a manual laborer. By night, he fought as a boxer just to fund his studies. From this life of struggle, he taught a lesson still relevant today. When the effort to lift a heavy stone is too great, wedge another beneath and continue. On the surface, it's practical advice about moving stones. But beneath it lies a profound metaphor. When motivation fails, you don't quit. You create leverage, you find systems, you build momentum that carries you forward regardless of how you feel. The mistake most people make is waiting until they feel like taking action. But emotions are unreliable. They shift with your sleep, your stress, your blood sugar, even the weather or the headlines you read. If your actions depend on your feelings, your life becomes an endless roller coaster. Bursts of progress followed by long crashes of stagnation. The Stoics live by a different law. Action drives emotion, not the other way around. You don't wait to feel brave before acting courageously. You act courageously, and in time, courage becomes your natural state. You don't wait to feel disciplined before living with discipline. You practice discipline until it becomes your second nature. This principle applies everywhere. You won't always feel excited to open the book that could reshape your thinking. You won't always want to train your body when it aches with fatigue. You won't always feel inspired to work on your craft when the results seem far away. You won't always have the emotional energy to resist temptations that undermine your long-term vision. And yet these moments when you least feel like acting are the moments when action matters most. Every small step taken while uninspired, every rep done while tired, every page read while distracted, every temptation resisted while discouraged, these are direct strikes against your old identity. Each one is a building block for your new self. They are proof that your commitment runs deeper than your comfort. The Stoics knew that greatness doesn't come from grand dramatic gestures. In fact, trying to transform your life in one giant leap often leads to burnout and collapse. Instead, real transformation comes from consistent, disciplined action, repeated daily until momentum itself becomes unstoppable. On Stoicism Breath, we recognize that a life of strength, clarity, and fulfillment is not built through random bursts of effort. It is built through steady, sustainable movement in the right direction day after day, year after year. The Stoics knew that greatness is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Want to become physically strong and healthy? Don't wait for the perfect mood or a 2-hour gym session fueled by motivation. Begin with 10 minutes of movement every single morning, no matter how you feel. Even on your worst days, you can commit to 10 minutes. Want to master a valuable skill? Dedicate just 30 minutes of focused practice each day, even when you're exhausted or uninspired. Want to become financially secure? Spend 15 minutes a day studying your finances, learning about investments, or developing income-producing skills instead of scrolling aimlessly on your phone. These actions may look small, almost insignificant, but that's exactly their strength. When done consistently, small actions compound. Just like compound interest in finance, they produce exponential growth over time rather than linear results. And more than that, these daily choices build psychological momentum. Once momentum is in motion, motivation follows naturally. The critical shift is this action creates motivation, not the other way around. Each time you take even the smallest positive step, you reinforce a new identity, the identity of someone who takes action. And as that identity solidifies, it becomes easier and more natural to continue moving forward. On the other hand, if you depend on emotions to decide your actions, your progress will always be unstable. Some days you'll feel unstoppable, but on others you'll feel tired, discouraged, or overwhelmed. If you let those emotional swings dictate your behavior, your growth will stall. The Stoics placed immense value on steadiness, the ability to keep moving regardless of circumstances internal or external. Marcus Aurelius, who endured wars, plagues, political turmoil, and personal loss, still returned to his philosophical practice daily. He understood that showing up consistently mattered more than waiting for perfect conditions. From a Stoic perspective, discipline isn't measured by how powerfully you can act when you're inspired. It's measured by how reliably you can show up when you're not. It's not about swinging for a single dramatic home run. It's about taking small, steady steps every day, knowing they add up to something extraordinary. Think of water carving its way through stone. It doesn't cut through rock with force, but with persistence, drop after drop, day after day. In the same way, your disciplined daily actions carve out a new future. Not through occasional intensity, but through relentless consistency. This principle changes how you approach every transformation in your life. You may never feel fully ready to start that business, to write that book, to face that difficult conversation, or to make that major life shift. And that's the point. Readiness isn't the foundation, consistency is. By taking small, deliberate steps forward, you build the future one action at a time. On Stoicism Breath, we confront one of the most dangerous illusions that keeps people trapped, the belief that you must wait until you are ready before you act. Most people use this feeling of unreadiness as an excuse for endless delay. But the Stoics taught us that the only perfect time to take action is now, this moment, with the resources and knowledge you already have. Life is unpredictable, and it is merciless to those who hesitate, waiting for perfect conditions that never arrive. While you research, plan, and convince yourself that you're not ready, opportunities vanish, time slips away. And meanwhile, others with less knowledge, less preparation, but more willingness to act move ahead. Stop overthinking your decisions. Stop overplanning your actions. Begin with what you know, act now, then adjust based on the feedback life gives you. Momentum, not perfection, will give you the clarity and confidence you're waiting for. Mahatma Gandhi, whose philosophy was deeply influenced by Stoic ideals, once said, "Action expresses priorities. Your words, your intentions, even your goals mean little compared to your daily actions. What you do each day reveals what you truly value. If you value your future self, your potential, and your dreams prove it." Prove it by taking action even on the days you don't feel like it. If you believe you are capable of more than your current life reflects, then demonstrate it through daily choices that reflect that higher standard. One of the most effective tools for this is setting daily minimum, small, non-negotiable actions you commit to no matter what. These are anchors that keep you moving forward when chaos strikes, when motivation disappears, when circumstances get difficult. Your minimum might be as simple as 10 push-ups when you can't make it to the gym, 1 page of reading when you're too distracted for more, 5 minutes of meditation when your schedule feels impossible. The goal isn't to transform your life in 5 minutes. The goal is to preserve your momentum and protect your identity as someone who follows through. Every time you honor these daily minimums, you build trust with yourself. You reinforce the identity of someone who does what they say, someone who doesn't quit. This creates the psychological foundation for larger commitments and bigger victories. Let your actions carry you when your feelings fail you. Trust that consistent movement in the right direction will generate the enthusiasm and confidence you keep waiting for. And here's the paradox: one day people will look at your life and marvel at how motivated you seem to be. They'll believe you were blessed with endless energy and drive, but you will know the truth. It wasn't motivation that built your success. It was momentum systematically created, carefully maintained, and built one small action at a time. On Stoicism Breath, take an honest look at the 5 people you spend the most time with. Ask yourself, do they create real value in their lives, or do they merely dream and talk about it? Do their daily actions reveal a true commitment to growth, or are they stuck in endless cycles of planning without execution? Do they challenge you to rise higher, or do they silently encourage you to stay at their level of comfort and mediocrity? The ancient Stoics understood this truth long before modern psychology confirmed it. You become remarkably similar to the people you surround yourself with. Epictetus, who rose from slavery to become one of history's greatest teachers, warned, "Avoid fraternizing with negative people, for they increase your likelihood of sinking to their level." This isn't elitism. It's not about judging others. It's about protecting your future by acknowledging the powerful influence of your environment. Your social circle is never neutral. It either nourishes your growth and strengthens your highest aspirations, or it poisons your potential and normalizes mediocrity. Every conversation you engage in either sharpens your thinking or dulls it. Every social interaction either reinforces your commitment to excellence or weakens your will to push beyond comfort. Look closely at those around you who say they want success, change, or improvement. Don't just listen to their words, observe their actions. Do they rise early to work on their goals, or do they sleep late and make excuses? Do they spend their free time learning, creating, and building? Or do they waste their evenings gossiping, binging on mindless entertainment, or doing nothing that aligns with their stated dreams? Many say they want discipline, yet spend time with people who celebrate quitting the moment things get tough. Many say they want financial independence, yet stay surrounded by voices that speak negatively about money, success, and ambition. Many claim they want growth, yet maintain friendships built on shared complaints instead of shared aspirations. If you keep such people close, their habits slowly become your habits. Their standards slowly become your standards. Soon being late seems acceptable because everyone in your circle is late. Making excuses feels reasonable because everyone around you excuses their failures. Quitting begins to sound mature, knowing your limits, because everyone around you has already quit on their own dreams, and without even realizing it, your fire starts to dim. Not because you stopped desiring a better life, but because you allowed yourself to be surrounded by those who never carried the flame, or worse, those who let their flame die long ago and now unconsciously work to extinguish yours. Mediocrity loves company. Misery is always recruiting. If you want to live according to your highest vision, you must carefully, intentionally, and sometimes ruthlessly choose your circle. Surround yourself with builders, those who take consistent action toward meaningful goals. The ones who rise early, not out of obligation, but because they are determined to maximize the day. These are the people who don't just talk about change, they embody it. On Stoicism Breath, the people who truly build meaningful lives live with discipline and intention. They exercise regularly, not because it's easy, but because they understand the link between physical discipline and mental resilience. They invest time in learning and skill development, not because it's always exciting, but because they're committed to increasing their value and capability over time. Builders don't waste energy talking endlessly about what they might do, they spend their time actually doing it. Their conversations focus on strategies, resources, and solutions. They don't just offer comfort, they offer direction. They move forward with quiet determination, caring less about recognition and more about results. And here's the powerful effect: when you spend time with such people, your excuses begin to feel hollow and your potential starts to feel urgent. Their standard of excellence pulls you upward. Marcus Aurelius understood this deeply. Surrounded by people who would agree with anything he said, he reminded himself to live as on a mountain above the noise of popular opinion, focused on growth, not approval. Even as emperor, he knew he needed distance from influences that could weaken his standards or distract him from his inner work. Applying this principle in your own life means making some hard choices about your relationships. You must begin to step back from those who drain your energy, discourage your ambitions, or normalize mediocrity. This doesn't require cruelty or dramatic declarations. It simply means reducing the time and emotional investment you give to relationships that don't align with your highest good. At the same time, you must intentionally move toward people and environments that inspire growth. Go where serious individuals gather, attend events, join organizations, step into spaces dedicated to learning, creating, and building. Spend more time in libraries, gyms, workshops, co-working spaces, places where people are actively shaping themselves rather than just talking about change. Some of you hesitate because you fear that outgrowing your current circle will leave you alone. But hear this: clearly temporary solitude is infinitely better than permanent mediocrity. The Stoics didn't just accept solitude, they embraced it as essential training. Alone you confront your weaknesses without distraction. Alone you develop your own thoughts without being clouded by others' opinions. Alone you build the kind of inner strength that makes you worthy of attracting high-caliber people into your life. You cannot connect with builders while clinging to the habits of dreamers. You cannot attract excellence while settling into mediocrity. The solution isn't to search desperately for better people, it's to elevate yourself first. When you do, the right people will naturally be drawn into your orbit. On Stoicism Breath, the solution to building a stronger life is not to search endlessly for better people. It's to become the type of person that better people naturally want to be around. When you live with such consistency and excellence that it radiates from your actions, other builders will notice. They'll see your seriousness, your focus, your commitment, and they'll want to connect with you. Work on your physical strength, sharpen your mind, cultivate financial discipline, and dedicate yourself to mastering skills. When you do, you won't have to chase. The right people will be drawn to your energy. Remember this timeless truth: genuine builders don't wait for applause. They don't need constant validation or encouragement to keep going. They build because building is who they are. If you want to transform your life and attract others on the same path, you must first commit to building with that same quiet intensity, whether or not anyone is watching. The quality of your life will always be shaped by the quality of the people you choose to walk with. Surround yourself with those who challenge you to grow, not those who comfort you into staying the same. Seek people whose actions inspire, not whose words merely entertain. Choose companions who are creating something meaningful with their lives, not those simply passing time until their days run out. This leads us into the fifth principle: stop consuming to escape. Start learning to evolve. This is perhaps the most destructive habit of modern life: using consumption as a way to avoid discomfort. We live in an age where information, entertainment, and distraction are available instantly at all times. But instead of using this access to grow, most people use it to numb themselves, to run from the responsibility of confronting their own potential. Think about your own patterns. When you scroll endlessly through social media, binge-watch shows late into the night, eat beyond your hunger, or consume endless streams of news, are you actually growing? Or are you quietly avoiding the discomfort that comes with building a meaningful life? The Stoics saw this danger even in their time with far fewer distractions than we face today. Seneca, who had access to all the luxuries of Roman wealth, warned, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." He understood that much of what we consume feeds our anxieties, fears, and distractions while doing nothing to strengthen our wisdom or capacity. Modern consumption is designed to keep you comfortably numb, never in enough pain to change, but never truly fulfilled either. Every hour spent consuming without intention is an hour stolen from building your future self. Think about it mathematically: 2 hours a day wasted in mindless scrolling, binging, or eating ads up to 14 hours a week. That's 60 hours a month, over 700 hours in a single year. Now imagine if even half of that time were redirected. Reading philosophy, training your body, learning new skills, studying financial literacy, practicing a craft, building something that compounds over time. That's the difference between a life wasted and a life built. On Stoicism Breath, imagine this: in just 1 year, without changing anything else in your life, you could invest over 350 hours into your own growth. That's the equivalent of nearly 9 full-time work weeks devoted entirely to becoming stronger, wiser, and more capable. Stretch that out over a decade, and you've built nearly 4,000 hours of deliberate self-development, enough time to achieve mastery in multiple areas of life. This is what the Stoics meant when they said life must be lived deliberately. Every choice, every hour, every habit should contribute to your growth as a human being. That doesn't mean you can never relax or enjoy simple pleasures. It means your rest should be earned, and your consumption should serve a purpose, adding value to your life, rather than numbing discomfort. Marcus Aurelius, who had access to every luxury Rome could offer, reminded himself in his private journal, "You become what you give your attention to." That truth is even more urgent today. If your attention is consumed by chaos, drama, negativity, or shallow distractions, you will inevitably become chaotic, negative, and addicted to stimulation. But if you direct your focus toward wisdom, health, discipline, and meaningful challenges, you will become wise, strong, and resilient in the face of difficulty. The shift begins with radical honesty. For just 1 week, track how you spend your free time, the hours not taken by sleep work or basic responsibilities. How much of that time builds your future, and how much is simply emotional escape? Once you see the truth, start small. Replace just 30 minutes a day of mindless scrolling or passive entertainment with 30 minutes of intentional learning. Reach for a book that challenges your perspective instead of your phone. Watch educational content that sharpens your skills instead of random videos that numb your mind. Listen to podcasts that expand your thinking instead of news that leaves you anxious but powerless. The key is not just to absorb information, but to apply it. Read about fitness, then actually train your body. Study communication, then practice it in your relationships. Learn financial literacy, then put it into action by managing your money differently. Knowledge without practice is trivia. Knowledge applied is transformation. The turning point comes when your brain begins to crave growth more than distraction, when you'd rather learn than escape, when consuming becomes a strategy instead of an addiction. That's the shift from being a passive consumer to becoming a builder, from being shaped by circumstances to becoming the architect of your own future. Marcus Aurelius said it best: "Bear in mind that the measure of a man is the worth of the things he cares about. What you give your time and attention to is what you ultimately become." On Stoicism Breath, what you choose to consume reveals the truth about your priorities far more clearly than the words you speak. If your daily choices show a preference for comfort over growth, entertainment over education, distraction over development, then those are your true values, and inevitably your life will reflect them. That is why today, right now, you must decide to care more about your evolution than your entertainment. Choose growth over distraction again and again until it becomes second nature. Train your mind to crave wisdom more than noise. Direct your attention to content that strengthens you, that sharpens your thinking, that equips you for the challenges of life, rather than content designed only to make time pass pleasantly. Your future self. The stronger, wiser version of you waiting to be built is depending on how you use your attention in this very moment. Write this truth into your soul: I consume wisdom, not distractions. Because in the end, attention is your most precious resource, and where you place it determines who you ultimately become. Now we arrive at the 6th principle: master boredom. because that is where greatness is built. This is one of the most overlooked yet absolutely essential truths for anyone who wants to achieve something meaningful. Most people never create anything truly significant, not because they lack intelligence, resources, or opportunity, but because they cannot endure the long stretches of repetitive, unglamorous, seemingly boring work that excellence requires. We live in a culture that despises boredom. The moment people feel even slightly understimulated, they instinctively reach for their phones, turn on a show, scroll endlessly, or seek out quick distractions. This dependency on constant novelty has trained our brains to demand stimulation at all times, making sustained focus on long-term goals nearly impossible. Yet Marcus Aurelius, who could indulge in every luxury and entertainment of the Roman Empire, chose instead to spend his precious time in quiet philosophical reflection and disciplined character building. He reminded himself daily, "It is not death a man should fear, but never beginning to live." And here's the paradox. Beginning to truly live often looks on the surface incredibly boring. It looks like early mornings spent in solitude, hours of repetitive practice on the same fundamentals, long stretches of focused work that are important but not exciting, predictable routines carried out day after day, year after year. This is the hidden ground where true greatness is cultivated, not in bursts of inspiration, not in fleeting excitement, but in the slow, steady accumulation of discipline, skill, and character. The world may not applaud you during these quiet hours, but those hours are what separate mediocrity from mastery. This is the work that transforms you when no one is watching. On Stoicism Breath, think about any person you truly admire, whether for their achievements, their skills, or the strength of their character. Strip away the highlight reels, the public recognition, the glamorous moments shown on social media, and what remains is almost always the same: a life built on structure, discipline, and repetition. These individuals don't chase constant excitement. They don't need every moment to feel thrilling. They understand something most people never grasp, that what feels boring today will eventually compound into capabilities so extraordinary, the world will mistake it for destiny or natural talent. The modern world, however, has created a population addicted to stimulation. Psychologists call it continuous partial attention, that restless state where you're always somewhat distracted forever, scanning for the next hit of novelty, never fully present with what's in front of you. This addiction is lethal to your potential. Why? Because mastery in any field demands deliberate practice, long hours of focused, repetitive work on specific skills carried out even when the process feels tedious, frustrating, or monotonous. Here's the shift in perspective. Boredom isn't your enemy, it's your test. It asks you, are you strong enough to keep going when the novelty fades? Do you care more about your long-term goals than your immediate craving for entertainment? The truth is, the ability to persist through the dull, quiet repetitions is what separates those who achieve mastery from those who dabble forever, starting new pursuits, quitting when it gets hard, and never sticking long enough to see real results. The Stoics knew this well. They didn't just endure boredom, they trained themselves to embrace it. They practiced what they called preferred indifference, valuing tasks not for how exciting they felt in the moment, but for how much they contributed to long-term strength and character. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote often about finding purpose in the everyday routine duties, repetitive responsibilities, and tasks that appeared mundane. He knew that true character isn't revealed in dramatic moments of crisis or bursts of inspiration. It's revealed in how you handle the ordinary day after day. So the question becomes, when faced with a boring but important task, do you resist it with frustration, or do you see it as an opportunity to sharpen your discipline and live out your values? The mastery of boredom begins with reframing your relationship to stimulation. Instead of craving constant excitement, learn to appreciate the quiet power of sustained focus. It's in those calm, repetitive moments that the groundwork of greatness is laid. On Stoicism Breath, instead of judging your daily activities by how entertaining they feel, begin evaluating them by how much they contribute to your long-term development. The first shift is simple but profound. Stop expecting every moment of your life to be exciting. In truth, the presence of boredom often means you've stayed with something long enough consistently enough for it to actually matter. If you're always jumping to something new because your current path feels dull, you may be avoiding the depth where real capability and mastery are forged. Second, build daily routines that you follow regardless of how stimulating they feel. Your morning habits, your exercise practice, your learning rituals, your work blocks, they shouldn't depend on your emotions or on novelty. The goal isn't to make them exciting. The goal is to make them automatic and unshakable like the beating of your own heart. Third, learn to track progress instead of chasing stimulation. When you see yourself lifting heavier weights, solving problems faster, communicating more clearly, or holding firmer to your values, that measurable growth becomes its own fuel. Excitement fades, but progress endures. Fourth practice, what I call deep presence in routine activities. Instead of trying to make tasks more entertaining, bring your full attention to them. When you're washing dishes, just wash dishes. When you exercise, feel every muscle working. When you read, engage with the ideas instead of skimming for highlights. Presence transforms boredom into training for your mind. And finally, remember this. Your ability to handle boredom is a competitive advantage in a world addicted to stimulation. While others are constantly chasing the next hit of novelty, you're quietly building strength, skill, and character that compound over time. The most successful people in any field have mastered this mindset. They've learned to find deep satisfaction in the process itself, showing up when nobody's watching, when applause is absent, when the work feels slow and unglamorous. That's how greatness is truly built, not in rare moments of brilliance, but in countless ordinary days filled with extraordinary commitment. Years later, when your results are so extraordinary that people assume you are gifted with natural talent or secret advantages, you'll know the truth. It wasn't genetics, luck, or privilege. It was your willingness to embrace boredom as the price of excellence. It was your ability to keep showing up, to build brick by brick, to transform unremarkable days into an extraordinary life. The path to mastery is paved with boredom. The only question is, are you strong enough to walk it? Speak this truth into your life. I embrace boredom to build greatness. And now we arrive at the seventh and final principle: act as if failure isn't an option, because regret is worse. This principle defines the difference between a life of bold achievement and a life of quiet disappointment. Every person who has built something truly meaningful operated from one mindset. Their most important mission was non-negotiable. This didn't mean they believed setbacks or defeats would never come. It meant they refused to give failure the final word. On Stoicism Breath, treating failure as unacceptable doesn't mean believing you'll never face obstacles. It means deciding from the very beginning that giving up, quitting permanently, or accepting defeat as final is simply not an option. Seneca, who endured exile, devastating financial losses, and ultimately execution by the emperor he once advised, understood this deeply. He wrote, "It is not that we are given a short life, but we make it short by wasting it. And nothing wastes life more than spending your limited time fearing failure instead of pursuing what truly matters." The truth is uncomfortable but unavoidable. You will suffer either way. The real question is, will you suffer from the pain of discipline and growth, or from the pain of regret and unrealized potential? Both are hard, but only one leads somewhere meaningful. Most people approach their goals with casual commitment. They try, they hope, they keep backup plans and escape routes, telling themselves it's practical, when in reality it's a quiet permission slip to quit when things get difficult. But a Stoic builder lives by a different standard: total commitment. When they decide something matters, whether it's health, relationships, financial freedom, skill mastery, or leaving a legacy, they burn the ships. They remove the possibility of retreat back to mediocrity. This mindset doesn't make the journey easier, it makes quitting impossible. And when quitting is no longer an option, something remarkable happens. Your creativity sharpens, your resourcefulness expands, and your persistence hardens into steel. You find a way to move forward because you must. Setbacks stop being endings and start becoming training. Challenges stop being excuses and start being fuel. This isn't about toxic positivity or pretending you'll never stumble. It's about strategic psychology, choosing beliefs that maximize your chances of long-term success while minimizing your chances of premature surrender. Because here's the reality: how you think about failure determines how you respond when setbacks inevitably arrive. So ask yourself what terrifies you more: the possibility of failing at something that matters, or the certainty of regretting the chances you never took. For most people, when they look at that question with complete honesty, the answer becomes undeniable. On Stoicism Breath, Marcus Aurelius captured one of the most profound truths about life when he wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." To him, obstacles weren't roadblocks, they were raw material for growth. Failure was never the opposite of success. It was the forge that shaped greater strength, deeper wisdom, and unshakable resilience. Yes, even with total commitment, you will stumble. You will face defeats, setbacks, and days that test your resolve. But a true Stoic does not collapse under the weight of failure. They recalibrate, they adapt, they learn, adjust, and keep moving forward with more clarity and more strength than before. From a Stoic perspective, the only true failure is abandoning your mission altogether. Everything else, every difficulty, every delay, is simply education shaping you into someone more capable of ultimate victory. And when the day comes that your life draws near its end, may you be able to say with honesty, "I gave everything I had to the things that mattered most. I did not hold back out of fear. I took the risks aligned with my values and lived boldly without being haunted by what if." That is success. Not the guarantee of every outcome, but the refusal to waste the gift of existence. If you are still here listening, it means you are not like most. You are awake. You understand that time is moving whether you act or not. The Stoics did not beg life for ease, they demanded strength from themselves. They lived by a law both simple and fierce: never play the role of the victim, but instead become the architect of your destiny. Your future doesn't need more promises, it needs your action. The 7 principles shared today are not empty motivation. They are tools: disciplined clarity, deliberate momentum, powerful environments, intentional consumption, mastery of boredom, and fearless commitment. Apply them daily and you will be stunned by the person you become. Delay again and life will continue to slip through your fingers, time no one can ever return to you. So stop bargaining with weakness. Stop begging for comfort. Stand tall. Breathe deep. Act with urgency. Look life directly in the eyes and declare, "I am here to build, not to waste." You already have what you need: a rational mind, a courageous heart, and the time that is slipping away with every breath. Begin now, because the longer you wait, the harder it becomes to reclaim your destiny. Type this final truth into your life: I build my life with relentless discipline. And if this message resonates with you, don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe so together we can keep walking this path of Stoic strength and unshakable freedom.